Hi there, it's Brian Sebastian, Movie Reviews and More, Women on TV.tv, the worldwide TV network, and Attitude out of Franklin, Tennessee, iTube 247. So if it's Tuesday, technically it will be on a Saturday, but this is a special show. It's called When We March. So this is always fun because we've never ever met ever at all, but there's one thing that we all have done is that we have all marched together in the Drum and Bugle Corps. That's the fun thing. So let's start with you, Vinnie. Vinnie, let's start with you because you started putting this together. Who the hell are you? Where are you from? And who you march?
My name is Vinnie Drake. I started marching in 1972 in Connecticut with the Oxford Explorers. Moved up to the Troubadours. From the Troubadours, I was in the Emerald Cadets. From the Emerald Cadets, Emerald Cadets / Emerald Buccaneers. From there, the Bengal Lancers, went to Senior Corps, the Hurricanes, and in '79, I went to Santa Clara, and 1980. I aged out in 1980.
That's impressive. I love your history. You and I have been talking on and off like the last 3 weeks. And then Joseph, let's talk about who are you and where you come from? Because your history is interesting too.
Oh, well, thanks. Yeah, I'm just a friend of Vinnie's, so I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, get out of here.
So my father's was a drum corps guy. So I remember being this big and holding onto his thigh and standing in front of his drum lines. And he taught a bunch of the local lines here in Connecticut. My first marching experience was with the Golden Buccaneers. I think that was about 1969. I was 8 years old. And then
wow,
we merged
with
the Emerald Buccaneers. Oh, thanks. We merged with the Emerald Cadets, and that's where I met Vinnie and the Emerald Buccaneers. That was 1976, Vin?
76, yes.
76, and then so 77, the Corps broke up. Emerald Buccaneers, the Corps broke up. Vinnie went to the Bengal Lancers, and I went to the Milford Shoreliners. Marched a year with Milford there, and took 78 off. And traveled a little bit. Actually got to see Santa Clara win in Denver that year. I was in the stands, up in the nosebleeds. And then I was lucky enough to be able to march with the Santa Clara Vanguard from 1979 until 1982 when I aged out. And I continued to teach drum corps right through the 80s, right about 90, 91 when my first daughter was born, and then I kind of semi-retired. I've been doing marching bands ever since. Still teaching Trumbull High School from Trumbull, Connecticut.
Wait a minute. When did you start teaching Trumbull?
About 3 years ago.
Trumbull was always Eastline major thing. We were just didn't, so it was always against Trumbull High School. I can't remember what the band was. We were the Eastline Vikings and then the Montville High School for the Barnum Festival. Is the Barnum Festival still on?
Isn't that funny? Yeah, I'm on the board of directors of the Barnum Festival now. I've been involved with the Barnum Festival for years and marched in those competitions there at Kennedy Stadium in Bridgeport. I loved it. I still do. Those
were fun, not only for Drum and Bugle Corps, but for high school bands. And I remember the one year that it was canceled, which was unfortunately when I think it was my second to the last year. I think it was my junior year in high school. We were all bummed because we had a great drum line. I think of this: Eastline Vikings. We had the colors maroon and gold. So we took.
Yeah, you look like Garfield. I remember.
Things done that. The director came in and he goes, "Brian, what do you think of this? These are our colors." I go, "Oh yeah, these are the Garfield Gaudett colors." So for me, I was a sophomore. He took my advice because he was into Drum and Bugle Corps as that band director. You can imagine that. So get a kick out of this. We played 1975 Clocks and 1979 and 80 as the drum solo. We played Spanish Dreams. We did 27th flag tossing. Did it all.
Yeah, like you had a greatest hits show.
we did it all, but we were really good. And till this day, a lot of us are still in contact, just like a lot of drum corps people would be. So that is that. But Vinnie, let's talk about this because you put this together. Right. Miguel's trying to get on. I'm going to get him on. Talk about how you came about, because here's what I remember of Emerald Cadets. I remember them going to the Surfers show. It might have been one of their second ones before they did Memorial Day, I believe. I just remember walking by them. For whatever reason, I never saw them, but they would always beat the New London Surfers. That is what I knew. And I was like, these guys can't be that good, but I never saw them, so I never knew. I just walking by, and the drum beat just says, if you don't win this, I'm going to kick all you guys in the ass. And then he saw me walking by, and he clammed up. And that's all I remember of the Emeralds. They would always beat the Surfers. What was it about Emerald when you guys were marching that was good? Because I don't know. I didn't see them.
Well, I think the instructors had a great history. Pepe Natero, Joe Gennaro, they were, legends in their day, and they just kind of passed it on to a bunch of kids, from New Haven. And that's the best I can attest it to. We have three of them in the Drum Corps Hall of Fame.
See, that's impressive right there.
Yeah.
I'm with you, Brian, though. Emerald, the cadets, they always seem bigger and badder than the rest of us, They'd come by and be like, oh, boy, here they come.
Well, it was interesting because we've been talking about this. Sometimes you would see people, but when you got to the show, like the World Open, you might have got there and scores have gone on. And then you're hoping that maybe they finals, and then maybe you can see them again. But it was always the case. I mean, I never saw St. Rita's Brassmen. I always wanted to see them. I wanted to make sure I saw everybody that I could because of that. You just never knew.
Right. Yeah, I would contest it too. Like I said, the instructors were legends in their day. You mentioned St. Rita's Brassman. Carmen Coluna did the St. Rita's Brassman. He was our M&M instructor. Pepe Natero from the Skyliners and Joe Gennaro.
Oh, I remember Pepe because he did the Firettes too.
Exactly. Yes. Yep. So that was the nucleus of the instructors, and I don't know. We just did what we were told. That's about it.
After Emerald, where did you go after that?
That's when I met Joey in '77 and '76. We merged with the Bridgeport Buccaneers, and I had a fascination with the mallets. I was up until that time, I played baritone and timpani. I was a horn player and a drummer, and so mallets came out, and I was fascinated by them, and I was kind of self-taught. I would play drum corps records and try to get every note right, and if I didn't, I'd put the needle back to where I messed up. So I was kind of self-taught, and then I met Joey, and Joey was multi-talented, and we played together mallets in '76 with the Emerald Buccaneers because we merged with the Golden Buccaneers from Bridgeport.
So Miguel just jumped on. Miguel, welcome to Movie Reviews and More. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you fine, Brian. Thanks for inviting me.
Oh, yes.
Hey, Miguel, what's up?
Hey there.
Hey, Miguel, how you doing?
I'm good. Oh, who is that
See,
third person?
This is all about bringing friends together. I never even met you in my life.
It's only been about 40 years, I think, Miguel. It's Joey.
There you are, Joey. Joey, I think I saw you 10 years ago at the Stanford Show 1981 reunion.
Yes, that's
briefly.
Right. Yes.
And then Vinnie, it's been 40 years, we think.
Yes.
We think. We're so old, there's no way of really knowing. But yeah, Vinnie, it's wonderful to see you.
Same here.
So you haven't seen Joey in 10 years, right?
Yeah, not in 10 years, and Vinnie in I think 40. I'm not proud to say that.
Hey, this is the more part of Movie Reviews and More. I always, when it came to drum corps, because again, each other, but that doesn't mean we didn't know what was going on and then marching against people. I think that's fun because we could be in a crowd and we would just walk by each other. This is what makes Drum and Bugle Corps special. And even now, marching bands, not then, because a lot of, band directors hated Drum and Bugle Corps. They hated having their members in the bands, most likely.
Oh, yeah.
Do you guys find that true when you guys were growing up also?
I was in my high school band, and we had to do a project, and I played 73 Santa Clara, and stood in front of everybody and tried to explain the 3 different tempos that they were using and this and that. And my band director flunked me. because he hated drum corps. Because he hated drum corps so much. So I came home. I told my mom, said, "Geez, I got flunked for that." My mom went back to this high school and ripped the guy. You know what? So I got a passing grade.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Here's see, before I went to East Lyme High School, the all-white high school, I was at Waterford High School. So Joseph, you may know some of the names. Vinnie, you
I know.
maybe
Yeah.
Miguel. But it was one of those things. His name was Don Fitzgerald. He hated Drum and Bugle Corps because all his students were in drum corps. And so he didn't want them marching in parades. So he would flunk them too. So specifically, they would want to march with the surfers in the parades because they just did. They loved our drum, our street beat and stuff like that. He would literally go and find us, said, "What are you doing with them? You're supposed to be man." He would come and he would pull them out in the surfer's uniform. It was hilarious.
I know the feeling.
That was hilarious. But Vinnie, go back to talking about. So were the Buccaneers? Was that the junior corps or were they the senior corps?
No, the Golden Buccaneers were a junior corps.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Because I think I'm reading out of Pennsylvania, so that's why. So I just wanted to make that clear.
They were quite impressive for me when I was a kid growing up. They always played. I grew up right next to a field where there were 3 shows every year, and the only thing that separated the field from the show was a fence. So since I was 5, 6 years old, I remember seeing them. And they stood out because they kind of looked like Santa Clara, but in a different color. They weren't. Everybody back in that day was a cadet looking style uniform, and they were the first corps probably I saw that weren't that following that suit. They looked like Buccaneers.
Miguel, how did you start?
In drum corps? Oh man. So first off, I have to say I was super lucky. In the middle of 7th grade, I moved into the school district that Gail Royer taught in.
What?
And and so he wasn't my middle school teacher. He taught at the other middle school that fed into Wilcox High School. And by the time I got to high school, he was my band director. And so I don't know if Joey and Vinnie have heard me say this. I've told some folks in Vanguard, but I knew nothing about Vanguard. I show up to first marching band rehearsal, and the other guy in the bass line is from the SCVA Corps. And our marching band at Wilcox was the opposite. Gail loved drum corps and hated marching band. And and so the Wilcox High School marching band really stunk. But back then, do you guys know what I mean when I say a neighborhood drum corps?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Explain
Vanguard,
it for the audience just in case they don't know.
yeah, I barely know because I only know from Santa Clara. It's basically a drum corps that's based in a neighborhood as opposed to drawing people from a wider region. I don't know. Does that match with your idea of it?
Yeah,
it does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In Bridgeport, I'm originally from Bridgeport, and every parish had a drum corps, Mike.
Exactly. And that's like a parish is like a county?
A church parish. So
Just a church. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, the Buccaneers were originally associated with St. Raphael's in Bridgeport.
Yeah.
We
were
St. St. Aidan's, right. Vinnie's
Right.
was St. Aidan's, and St. Anne's had a corps. Everybody had a corps. They were all neighborhood corps, like you say.
And so as the resident West Coast person here, we did not have that experience, but my first year was 1976, and in 1976, Vanguard was still a neighborhood corps. My high school was like ground zero for Vanguard. I didn't know this when I showed up. I just found out. I could name for you 6 families, 8 families probably, that had multiple kids in the A Corps at one time in my rookie years. Anyway, so when Gail first became band director, the band wasn't ready to do a field show for the first varsity football game of the year. And so who do you think he got to sub for the Wilcox High School marching band?
The Vanguard.
Anybody? The Vanguard A Corps. 1975 Vanguard A Corps.
Wow.
And this was after finals, so they were missing some members, but all I had to do to get introduced to drum corps at the highest level, because Vanguard took second at nationals to Madison Scouts, and they had one of the best drum lines ever.
Yeah.
I just went to my first high school football game as a freshman, and there they were.
Wow.
And it was just amazing. And that's literally how I got started. It fell into my lap. There's no better story of something falling into your lap like that. And then Vinnie and Joy, you'll love this. So they went to the starting line. That was back in the days where you would warm up on the starting line, right? The horns warmed up by playing clowns, and the snare line warmed up by playing a 25 count roll. So I thought that the drum part to clowns was a roll, just like the national anthem, right? You know, da, da, da. And I found out later that wasn't the case at all. But, you know, I was just so new to everything. It was just like, wow, they played a roll through Sending the Clowns. That's the coolest thing ever. But so then, you know, I had seen 75 Vanguard, and I knew I can't do that, but I want to be a part of it. It was just mesmerizing. It was amazing. I was completely blown away. And so I only went to Vanguard audition because my friend, Jeff Spencer, who was big bass before Vinnie was big bass, he told me, well, there's no B Corps auditions. You have to go to the audition, and then they'll separate you and they'll send you to the B Corps. And I'm going, okay, I guess. And I still have to talk to Jeff to see if he was pulling my leg. So I go to the A Corps audition. It's like 60, 70 guys, because this is after 1975, like one of the greatest drum corps drum lines ever. Everybody's auditioning. I am for sure the worst drummer there, because I'm a drum set guy. I don't know rudiments, and I'm joining a rudimental drum line. That's kind of a problem. And my audition, you know, I'm eternally grateful for Ralph Hardiman. It was Ralph Hardiman's first year teaching, and I was just eternally grateful to him for not throwing me out of the audition. I was auditioning for the bass line. He asked me to play some rudiments. Like, I don't know rudiments, right? And then he asked me to play a single stroke roll, and I did some kind of crazy Ian Pace kind of just like the fastest thing I could do with single strokes. He's going, no, single stroke roll, you can slow it down. And I just couldn't do it. And so he said, okay, great. And I got cut to the cymbal line, but I was eternally grateful that he just didn't boot me from the room when he saw that audition. It's terrible. And I talked to Ralph a few months ago, and he remembers my audition. I'm like, oh my God, how many guys in his career has Ralph Hardiman auditioned? He remembers mine, partially because it was so bad. It was just, yeah. Ralph thinks that's why I made the line.
Miguel, that's actually pretty cool, because you're talking about the days when people would come off the street. I just got done talking to four of the guys who marched 71 to 75 show, the snare drummers, and I
saw that. That was great.
Stories, huh?
I saw that. It was great.
Well, it was an honor, because you three are like the connecting of how you go from, say, Connecticut and from a local corps to get into Vanguard. That's not easy what you do. My hat goes out to you. So I tell people all the time, yes, I talk to a lot of celebrities, but to me, you guys are the celebrities in my eyes, because I was watching you guys and I was learning your beats. And I was like, I want to do this, but I also knew time was running out for me to go and join that corps. The closest I could be is just going to the hall and living someplace near Santa Clara. That would be the only thing that I could do. But, I'll tell you something later in the show, what's about to happen now with that regarding us. But the thing about that is, I knew the clocks, the 76 show, you knew all the stuff. What I did not know is when you guys took off your hats, how young you guys were. It's like you guys are still kids. Because as you guys are telling the stories now, it's like I can see what you're talking about, but I see the hats on until the hats come off, and pictures that you see online these days. You guys were still kids. That's the amazing fact of how good you guys were and how everybody looked up to everybody. That amazes me still to this day.
Gail used to call me Uncle Vinny because I had a beard and I looked a lot older than I was. So I got the term Uncle Vinny. Both him and Ralph called me that. I mean, Fred and Gail called me that.
Vinny, talk about when you leave. Tell that story of when you go to Connecticut and how you ended up in Northern California.
Well, my first my first time ever hearing about Vanguard, I was at a show in my backyard, like I said. My grandmother let me borrow $7 to buy an album. They used to sell drum corps albums on the, you know, with drum corps news and all that. So I had a few bucks, and I bought a drum corps news and an album. It was the 73 Drum Corps International Finals, and Vanguard was on it. So I finished the show. I was at the show. I come home, and it's about 10:30, 11 o'clock at night, and I start playing this album, and here comes Vanguard on there, and I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I from what I heard live just that night to what I was hearing on the album, I really couldn't. There was no explanation for it, and I think at night I played that album over and over till the record wore out, till it started repeating itself. So that was my first exposure to them. I had never seen them. You'd get drum corps news, that was the only exposure I had to them. And the first time I saw them, it was a funny story. I was in the Emerald Cadets. We were in Butler, Pennsylvania. We were late for the show, and Vanguard was on right after us. So we had to walk through them to get to our spot to go on the field. And it was like I was in dreamland. I couldn't believe it. I wanted to see them so bad. As soon as our show ended, I ran to the equipment truck with my timpani faster than Usain Bolt to try to get back in time to see what was going to happen, because I really, it was unbelievable. I set a record running a quarter mile with a timpani drum over my head. And that was my first exposure to them. And once I heard them back when I was a kid, and all the hours and time that I had spent in drum corps, I said to myself, one day, no matter what, even if I don't make it, I've got to try it. And then I saw that Tom Brown had the same kind of journey, and I believe that I heard the same thing. I don't know about Joey, but I heard the same thing that you did, that Tom had
hitchhiked cross country.
All the way across.
Okay, so here's the thing, and I told Tom this. How do we all hear this rumor and it not be true? I think it's
right. Then he went to a surfer rehearsal, right? And then he got it.
Yes, because he marched with Bobby Craig, who was our instructor, and Bobby Craig. They both marched Blessed Sack, and then they did Polish Falcons, and then he went to Santa Clara after that. Now, we never knew the relationship of that, because you get a chance to talk here and there, but you're really rehearsing. So you hear little things, and I'm like, how does Bobby know Tom? I didn't know until Tom told me that he and Bobby marched. I never knew that. So this is why it's important to put all the stories together, because we all have what we remember. And
he was a legend back then, right? That was like a folk legend.
Yes, exactly. So chances that we all heard that, and then me asking him, and he goes, "No, I never did that." I believe you did.
Well, Vinny, why don't you tell the guys how you got to Santa Clara? How you guys got to Santa Clara?
I played hockey, and I told my mom I wanted to get there, and she said, "Well, if you're going to do it, you're going to do it." I wanted to go before I got out of high school, but I didn't have any money. I was working. I was a welder's helper, and I played hockey. I sold my hockey equipment and got on a Greyhound bus, and that was it.
Whoa!
How many days did it take, Vinny?
3 days.
On a Greyhound bus.
Were you nervous going cross country by yourself?
I was determined. I think I was more determined than I was nervous. That's the best way I can put it. I was determined to get there one way or another, and do what I could. If they'd have told me, Vin, we don't have a spot for you, but you go down the street there and buy 130 coffees, I'd have done it, because if that was the only thing I could have done, then I would have done it.
Vinny, did anybody know you were coming?
I gotta say, there's one guy, his name is Tony Romo, and every time I saw Vanguard from 75 up, Tony always took the time out to speak to me, to give me encouragement. even if it was only for 15, 20 seconds or a minute, whatever time he had. And he always told me, don't give up, keep going, write Gail a letter. And that was that. I encourage other members now, whoever sees this, to do that same thing, because it does make a big difference in my journey. I don't even know if Tony knows that.
Tony's a great guy. Him and
Yeah,
Pete.
he is. He really is.
Such a great guy.
Hey, Joseph, talk about your journey. How did you make it there?
So I rode Vinny's coattails. What can I tell you, Brian?
I called Joey. I called Joey. Excuse me, Joe. I called Joey up. We had a rehearsal. We needed one mallet player, and Fred said, "Does anybody know anybody?" And I said, "I got just a guy for you." And I called Joey up. It had to be, maybe 4 o'clock in the morning his time, and woke him up and said, "Joe, get on the next plane out here."
Wow, I didn't know that. That's cool.
Oh yeah, it was Gary Gilroy had played marimba the year before, and he got hired by Blue Devils as a player coach. He still had eligibility, so he marched 79 with Blue Devils, and that spot opened up, and Vinny got me the spot, and I was just so thrilled to have it, and I did. I got my butt on a plane, and I got my butt there, and I had regular calls with Rob Carson to let him know that I was absolutely interested in being in the Corps. And as I recall, school ended on May 14th, and I got on the plane on May 15th, and I was in Santa Clara. And it was just incredible. What an incredible experience.
Just like that? Wow.
Yeah, just like that. I mean, I fell in love with the Corps. I had been listening to DCI and Combine Corps right through the 70s, but I fell in love with the Corps at DCI East in Allentown in 1978. That performance, especially the prelims performance, I was just blown away by. I had seen a lot of good drum corps. We traveled with the Muchachos. We'd see them a lot. We'd see Garfield a lot. We'd see 2-7 a lot. Nobody was like Santa Clara. It was another level. And then, as Vinny says, I think we were hanging out that day, Vinny. We got to meet the Romo brothers, and they were just tremendous people. What fantastic people they were, and they just made you feel like they really wanted you to come. Like if you really want to do this, come and do this, and we'll make it happen for you. And yeah, I mean, it's like you land in a strange place 3,000 miles away, but you got 135 immediate friends that you have so much in common with, and everybody was just wonderful. I had a tremendous experience, and I did that for 4 more years. I mean, I did it for 4 years total, and that's hard to do, to go back and forth from Connecticut to California. And I'd go out for camps and stuff, and I guess a lot of kids do that nowadays. But back when we were doing it, I was called an import. I had a name. I was an import, and a lot of people made a lot of accommodations for me so that I could do it. And I can't thank everyone enough, because it really impacted my life tremendously.
And
Joey,
Brian, going back to that neighborhood. Oh.
Joey, let me see your shirt.
Oh, so this is the design. This is the design of the shirt that I bought in Allentown in 1978. It's the same strain, but it was no. It was a baseball shirt. It was a white baseball shirt with red collar and
I remember that one.
Yeah. That was the first shirt I ever bought. It doesn't fit anymore, obviously. I still have the shirt. It doesn't fit anymore. But yeah, I love the Corps. Love the Corps.
Hey, Brian, I wanted to add one thing.
Go ahead.
Okay, so going back to this neighborhood drum corps, Tony Romo and Peter Romo and Mark Romo were from my high school, right? So this is like, it's really a neighborhood drum corps. And on top of this, and Vinny and Joey, if you guys haven't seen Bud Romo's induction to the Vanguard Hall of Fame, so their dad was a guy named Bud Romo, who was really involved as a parent. He was so involved that I didn't know this until he was put into the Hall of Fame. He basically put up the collateral for the loan to buy the first Corps Hall that opened in 1977. Bud Romo, Tony and Pete and Mark's dad put up the collateral for the first loan for the bingo hall. It was a bingo hall. It wasn't so much a practice hall, but because we needed the bingo for the money, for the revenue. But that's just like, that goes back to this neighborhood thing. These guys all lived in my neighborhood. They went to my high school. It was like, I couldn't avoid it. And it's the total opposite. I really have tons and tons of respect for people like Vinnie and Joey and everybody else who had to do that, because Vanguard like fell into my lap. I probably couldn't have avoided it if I wanted to, right? So it, you know, like, I mean, at Wilcox High School, nobody was in the band. Everybody in Vanguard avoided that band like the plague, but everybody wore their Vanguard jackets. And there was more people wearing Vanguard jackets than Wilcox, you know, letter jackets, right? You know, the letter jackets you wear for varsity football and everything. Yeah. There's more Vanguard jackets in there. You would think Vanguard was like the Wilcox Marching Band or the Wilcox Drum Corps. So I just, you know, I just hats off to these guys. And we really did need folks, because you're a neighborhood drum corps, you're either growing your own, or, you know, you're going to have real ups and downs in terms of the talent level in the corps. And so reaching out to people like Tom Brown, people like Joey and Vinnie really, really helped us. I mean, Vinnie totally helped me in a total bind at the 79 audition when he showed up. I don't know, Vinnie, you want to tell that story, but you know, he was a godsend. He saved me. Do you want to tell him how you saved me, Vinnie?
I get off the bus. I'm shaking like a leaf. They're splitting up drummers. I don't remember. We had at least, my God, we had 70 or 80 people trying out for like 3 or 4 spots. Something like that. Yeah,
because we had won the year before, right? We won in 78. Everybody wants to be in Vanguard.
So I played timpani the year before with the Hurricanes. So I figured I might as well stay with what I'm playing. And they were sorting drummers out, and I went with the timpani players. So I'm starting to do exercises with the timpani players, and here's Miguel comes this guy, I didn't know who he was at the time. He comes walking over and grabs me by the arm, and he goes, "Do you ever play bass drum?" And I said, "No." "Well, now you do."
You're in, baby.
Miguel, you made that decision, huh?
Well, so I was the section leader of the bass line, and we lost 2 people, guys who had gone back to 1973, you know, from the golden era. And we lost 2 of those bass drummers, and one of them was the big bass drum. And I'm like, you know, it not only has to be somebody who can play, but, you know, they got to be big enough and strong enough to carry around the big bass drum, even back then, even though we just did elevator drill. And so I saw Vinnie, and it was clear to me he could play. And so I poached him. You know, it's just like grabbing him before JW. JW Kester was the section leader of the timpani line. JW is now the corps director for the Mandarins in Sacramento. But anyway, I said, JW can fend for himself. I'm getting me a big bass drummer, you know?
That's funny. Hey, talk about this. I have to do a part 2 with you guys. I hope you guys have time to do this, because there's so much more to tell. What I'm going to say with this is I'm doing some things to help Vanguard out. I'm doing some things with their Fun Guard thing coming up. Here's what I always wanted as that person who could never march, who was running out of time to go and even try out, who was 3,000 miles away. And I was just getting into radio like 2 years later. And I'm like, I can't go to California yet because I have to get into school to get into radio, if that made sense. Once I get to radio, I'm like, okay, I'm in radio now. Now I'm going to figure out how to get to Northern California. I'm going to end up near Walnut Creek, and I'm going to be near Vanguard some kind of crazy way. That was my whole plan. Little did I know, I ended up moving to Los Angeles. I ended up near UCLA and in Westwood and Brentwood, California. And I'm staying with one of my friends who was my snare drummer from Eastline High School Band, the Eastline Vikings. And I'm like, okay, I'm only here temporarily. I'm going to Northern California. I'm going to be whatever it takes to be near Vanguard, because in my mind, I was going to be at the local radio station out there, which I didn't even know. I was going to stay with some relative. I think her name was Dawn Robinson from the musical group In Vogue. Remember those girls? Now, we've never met before, but we're related some kind of wacky way. I was going to throw myself sort of like Vinnie into that area and be around Vanguard some kind of way and end up there and backwards. Some kind of backwards way, end up there. It didn't happen that way. I stayed in Los Angeles, ended up working at the #1 radio station, said, I'm going to still make it up to Northern California some way, but now I'm in Los Angeles. So I never made it up there. Turns out now I'm working on doing something with Vanguard in a bigger way that I can't say yet, but I'm gonna get my honorary Vanguard jacket that I've won in the 70s, some kind of wacky way, and I'm gonna save this Corps. So from what you guys did, you guys laid the groundwork for a lot of people, and I couldn't be happier, and it's an honor and pleasure to meet you guys. Vinnie, give your name, what corps you marched with, and what you're doing now.
Okay, my name is Vinnie Drake. I started Drum Corps in 1972, marched in the Oxford Explorers. 73, I marched with the Connecticut Troubadours. 74, 75, and 76, I marched with the Emerald Buccaneers, Emerald Cadets. 77, I won a DCI title with the Bengal Lancers in Class A, playing a baritone horn. In 78, I marched with the Connecticut Hurricanes, playing the timpani. In 79 and 80, Vanguard, playing the bass drum.
Give your social media links.
You can reach me at ptvinster@sbcglobal.net.
Joseph, years real quick you marched with and social media links.
So yeah, Joe Gaudett, born into drum corps. You know, Dad was a teacher. I started marching when I was 8 with the Golden Buccaneers. Stayed with them right through 1976 when we merged with the Emerald Buccaneers. Marched with the Milford Shoreliners for a year in 77. Took a year off and taught a little bit on those neighborhood corps that Mike was talking about. And then got a phone call from my buddy Vinnie Drake, and headed out to Santa Clara, and I marched 79 through 82. I aged out in 82. Loved every minute of it.
And with that, Miguel, I'm going to start up with you next show. I'm going to have to end it. We're going to run out of time. Hey, this is Brian Sebastian, Movie Reviews and More, Women on TV, IQ 247 out of Franklin, Tennessee. When we march, everybody Vanguard here, except me. I'm this. If you see someone without a smile, please give them one of yours because the world needs it. And we'll see you for part 2.